Hi everyone, in this video we are going to code and style the testimonial section of this website. We are going to use Swiper.js library to create the functionality for all these cards so we can swipe them, so we can, with mouse, we can hold and click and hold and then like throw it to either right or left. We can do that. We can also click on these arrows to go from one testimonial to the other. Now this is completely performant when it comes to mobile devices as well. So on mobile devices, this is going to be extremely touch friendly. So you can basically go ahead and use this testimonial section for any kind of website that you would want that to be used for mobile devices. So it is created, Swiper.js actually creates these kinds of Swiper components by taking the mobile first approach in mind. So if I just go ahead and enable the touch simulation and reload, now it means that now when I just click and hold, it means that this is basically simulating a touch device. There we go. So if it is a touch, it is going to work like this. So you can basically swipe it with your fingers as well. Very simple, right? So this is a cool thing that we are going to implement. Now, in case you're not familiar with JavaScript, it's not really necessary to be able to implement this. I'm going to give you all the code. It's going to be a completely standalone section. You can use this. Now, the styling, the responsiveness, that all comes from CSS. That is something that you are familiar with quite a lot. But the actual functionality that comes from a bit of online code, as you would say it, from the CDN, and a little bit of modification that we are going to do to it in our JS file, in this file. So first off, let's go ahead and let's code this. So this is going to be the testimonial section. The first thing that we are going to have is going to be the title. That is going to be an H2. So I'm going to copy this word testimonials and I'm going to paste it there. So it's going to be testimonials title, and I'm going to give it the section _ title class as well. Now this is going to say span users sharing, and then outside the span, I'm going to say their experience. Let's save this. Users sharing their experience. I'm going to provide this with the section padding class as well. Now, I know that for the desktop version, we are not going to need that, but section padding class, it takes care of the responsiveness of the padding for this section, as it did for the previous sections. So after 850, I think it is going to decrease the padding. There we go. So now we are going to jump into the actual testimonials. Now, the first thing that I'm going to tell you is that because we are borrowing code from Swiper.js, the markup, it has to have a certain structure. So we need to have a certain structure for our containers and contained elements. So this code that we have grabbed from the CDN, it actually works. All right, so I needed to tell you that. And also that one more thing, that there is going to be a ton of HTML. So it's going to be like way more than CSS. So first off, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create the slider main container. I'm going to document it so you really understand what is going on. Now, typically when you're working with these kinds of libraries, like very lightweight libraries that provide you with like very fine-grained components, what happens is that they're going to give you the HTML. The HTML is created beforehand, then there is the styling, and then there is the JS file, these links that you need to include, as well as the fixed code for JavaScript. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to code that HTML. Now this HTML, this is based on the actual documentation for Swiper.js. So it's not something that I've created, it's something that they've created, the creators. And if you don't follow the structure for markup, it's not going to work. So you need to keep that in mind. Now, the reason that I'm not copy pasting is because I want you to really understand that it is really simple and there is nothing like crazy going on, and it resembles a lot, like 99% the structure that I'm about to write here. It resembles my own structure, my own style, and in case you have adopted that style, it is going to resemble yours as well. So everything that we've done so far, we're going to basically do that again, but some of the class names, they're going to be mandatorily different. We need to follow the documentation. So that's something that I needed to tell you. So this is going to be the main slider container. I'm going to create a div and I'm going to give it a class of swiper. Again, this is part of documentation. And I'm going to say we are going to need an additional, so additional additional required wrapper. So container wrapper doesn't really matter. We just want to stay a little bit diverse, I assume. And I'm going to say swiper wrapper. Again, this is part of the documentation. We are not going to do anything crazy in here. So within here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create my first testimonial. So this is going to be testimonial 1. Now, originally what I had planned was to create 12 testimonials. So if you come to testimonials, you're going to see that there are 6 images for man and 6 images for woman. But what I've done is I've selected only 3 for men and 3 for women, because the code, as you're going to see in a few minutes, is going to become very, very gigantic. So in case you want to add 6 more testimonials, you can do that and just have to add it within HTML. The CSS styling, they are coded or created in a way that it doesn't matter how many testimonials you add, you don't have to really change anything in CSS. You just have to add that HTML. And the CSS is going to take care of it. Now, the first testimonial, what I'm going to do is, now in here, it is going to have 2 classes. The first class is going to be Testimonials Card. This is my class. And the second class is provided by the Swiper library. So this is going to be Swiper-Slide. Now, if you don't provide it with the Swiper-Slide class, it's not going to work. Now, each of these testimonials, they're going to be within the Swiper slide. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to code them one by one. So what do we have within each of the cards? We have this icon for quotes. We have 5 stars. We have paragraph, an image, a name, and a role. So we need to go ahead and code all of them one by one. The first one is going to be quote. Now, the quote and the stars, I'm going to provide them within one container. So I'm going to say, let's copy this. And let's say, so this is testimonial card -- icons. And within here, we are going to have, I'm going to basically go ahead and I'm going to copy paste all of this. It's very simple. So let me just paste that there. So this is our icon. The icon's original class is this. So fa solid, fa quote -- right. Testimonials card icons _ quote. This is my class. This is the class that I've provided it with. Now, this is going to have a class of quote, and this is going to have a class of stars. These two containers, they're siblings. So the icons, they're done. Let's make sure that we are getting out of the original div. So this div, it belongs to these stars. We need to get out of this icons div, because the other one is going to be the next up. It's going to be the paragraph. So I'm going to say we are going to have a paragraph. Oops. Let's grab a card up until here, and the class for this is going to be para, and I'm going to give it the styling for section para. Let's save that. Let's say lorem 20. Let's save that. Yes, that is cool. And let's move on. Let's see, what do we have next. So we have created the icons. They do have one container, because on that container I'm going to say display flex space between. Therefore, they're going to be stretched farthest from each other. So this is going to be the paragraph. We have created that. Now next up we have this image and name and role. So all 3 of these elements, because they're grid, I'm going to provide them within one container. So if I come in here, testimonial card 1, this is how I've actually created. This is the underlying grid. The reason that it is tilted a little bit is because this container card is tilted. Don't worry about that, that's nothing. So we have this image which is going to be within column 1 and row 1 and 2, and then we have this the name, and we have this row. So we are going to do that within one container. Now I'm going to call this personal info, and we are going to create a div that is going to have personal-info. Let's hit enter. Within here, first we are going to have the picture for each of the testimonials. I'm going to say image, so it is going to be images, testimonials, and I'm going to grab woman 1, okay, and I'm going to say woman. There we go. And we would want all of these to have that lazy loading activated, so lazy. Let's save that. I'm going to give it also a class, and it is going to be testimonial cards -- personal -info, and then __ picture. Let's save that. There we go. So I'm just going to grab this just to make sure everything is typed correctly. There we go. So the image is done. Let's move on. Then next up we have the name, and then we have the role. And then this testimonial 1 is done. So you can see how much code we have only for one testimonial. Imagine if there were 12. So you need to do this 12 times. This is the name. I'm going to use an h4. This is going to have a class of, let me copy this part, and I'm going to put it right here. Personal info _ name. The name is going to be Ann Jones. And next up we have the role. And I'm going to use an h5 for this. So we are staying spontaneous. Class is going to be role. And this is going to be CEO. There we go. So the first testimonial is created. Let me just go down below. There we go. So this is the image. This is the content that we provided. Here is the paragraph. Where is the paragraph? It's right here. There we go. And we are going to have 5 more of these. So let's collapse testimonial 1, copy it, come down here, and we are going to paste that. So for the next testimonial, basically there are going to be some elements which are going to be similar for all of the cards. Like the quote, the stars, and this text. Because this is dummy content, doesn't make sense if I change it to another dummy content for the other person. So like for this one, I think, how do you go to the next one? Is it, yeah, this is. So if you click on the right, it is going to go to the next one. So for this one, it's going to be that. The only thing that we're going to change is going to be this image, the name, and the role. So let's jump down there. So this is going to be man 1, man number 1, and I'm going to change this to man. The name for this one is going to be Terry Brown. So Terry Brown, and he is the CFO, Chief Finance Officer. Okay, so this part is done. It's very simple. We are going to collapse testimonial number 2. And we are going to take a look at it right here. Okay, where is the other image? Like, oh, because the height is fixed, that's why we can't see the other image. So if I just get rid of the height, get rid of the background, save that. Okay. Where are you, buddy? Did I make a mistake in there? So for testimonial 2, we have man 1. Okay, it is correct. I don't know why it's not showing. Loading lazy. Let's move on, and when we get to CSS, then we are going to assess that. So this is testimonial 2. We need to create 4 more. So it's going to be a little bit of a tedious process. The name for the third one is Megan Smith. So this is going to be woman 2. Woman 2, and let's add a WO. This is going to be Megan Smith, Was it Smith? Yeah, all of them are Smith. And the role is going to be CMO, Chief Marketing Officer. Let's collapse this. The reason that I'm collapsing these is because it makes navigating a little bit easier. So this is testimonial number 4. The name for testimonial number 4 is going to be Ishan Kumar. This is going to be man 2. Yeah. And this is going to be man. So Ishan. Okay, come on, buddy. So ISHAAN Kumar. And he is the CEO. There we go. So let me just go ahead and collapse that, copy it, put it down here, save it. Next up, we are going to have Lauren Lopez. So Lauren Lopez. She is a CFO or the CFO. And this is going to be woman 3. Woman dash 3. Yep. And this is going to be woman. And we are going to collapse this testimonial number 4. We are going to change it to 5. Let me copy this. And finally, we are done. Let's see. So for the final one, we are going to have Ethan Davis. So Ethan Davis. And he is CMO, the CMO. And he is man number 3. So let's say man. There we go. So I think we are done with the testimonial parts. I'm going to change this to number 6. There are a couple of more things that we need to add. And for us to be able to do that is we need to get out of this testimonials. So this is the swiper wrapper, which contains all of our testimonials. So I'm just going to collapse that. I'm going to get out of there. And I'm going to say here, I'm going to provide swiper pagination. These are those dots that you see at the bottom towards the bottom middle, vertically bottom, horizontally middle, like dots, very small circles. It's going to be a div that is going to have a class of swiper dash pagination. You could provide that, or you could just choose not to. Keep in mind, they do not have any content. They just have styling. That's why the content is empty. Now, we are going to have 2 buttons. One is on the right, those arrows. One is on the left. So I'm going to say swiper navigation. Again, we need to follow the documentation for this library if we want to use it successfully. So it's going to be swiper dash button dash pref. This is the previous button, and for the next button, we are going to say next. Now, this was much better, right? I know it took like 18 minutes, but this was better. You understood, okay, how the swiper works, what are its different components, and instead of just me going ahead and copy pasting everything right here for you, I think this is a better approach, even though I needed to follow a certain practice, a certain structure, but that structure did not really differ from the structure that we've been coding so far. So the idea of containers and nesting containers and having contained elements, it was exactly like ours. So we are done with the HTML for this. Make sure you have added the script file here, and then on the top you need to have that swiper link. So this is for the CSS files, or the CSS styles. They're going to, in case you're wondering, the CSS styles are going to come from this link, as it says .css. And the functionality for which the JavaScript is responsible, it's going to come from this min.js. Min, it stands for minified. It means that we are grabbing a lighter version, so it runs faster on our machine. Cool. Let's go ahead and let's jump into CSS. And what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take a look at our styles, what we've done here. And okay. Now for some reason we can't see the other images. And if I click on this, I believe no, it isn't. No, it is not going to show it. So everything is messed up. We are going to go ahead and we are going to fix that. So in what do we want to do? So first we need to keep in mind what kind of containers we have. So we have that title, and then we have the container for swiper. Okay, let me collapse this entire thing. So we have this title, and then we have swiper main container. I'm going to say display flex direction column. Now align items is going to be, come on buddy, align items is going to be center. Justify content is going to be center. Now justify content works vertically, and align items works horizontally. Gap we are going to provide it with forum. And I'm going to say overflow X. I'm going to set it to hidden, but I'm going to comment it out. So this is going to be the swiper class that we have created. I'm going to give it a width, and this is going to be a calc function. So the minimum width for the swiper is going to be 50 rem, and the maximum width is going to be 50 rem plus 10 VW. Cool. Okay, there we go. So everything is contained. The functionality doesn't work. The reason for that is because we have not actually added the JavaScript. We are going to code the JavaScript as well. Don't you really worry about it. Now I'm going to grab each testimonial card. Now keep in mind, each testimonial card is actually our swiper slide. So if I come in here, and if I open this, so each testimonial card is actually our swiper slide. So each of these slides, if I go to our web page that you can see right here, each of these is going to be one of our cards. So I'm treating them as cards. The swiper.js library, it treats them as slides. You can treat it the way that you want. So it's going to be testimonials _ card. Now within the card, what do we have? We have a container for the icons, paragraph, and a container for the personal image, personal info. I'm going to say display flex. So all the items, they're horizontally. Now I want to change their direction to, if I come in here. Now these are display flex. They should be horizontal, display flex, and we are going to change them to, let's see, what should I do with this? Now I think they should be, because there is, I think because there is not enough space on the left side, they're on the bottom. Okay, let me just go ahead and comment this part out. And if I come down here, so we have the paragraph, and after the paragraph down below, so everything is messed up. Let's just go ahead and keep coding. And I'm going to say flex direction column. Let's provide it a gap. So the row gap is going to be 4M, column gap is going to be 0. I'm going to give it a background image, and it is going to be that gradient. So it's going to be gradient quaternary. Let's give it a padding of 4 rem top and bottom, 8 rem left and right, and the color is going to be color primary. Let's save everything, and we don't see that. We don't see the background color being applied, the background image, and I think the reason for that is because this image is gigantic. So what I could do is actually go ahead and provide a height and width for the image, make it smaller a little bit. So what do we have here? So I'm going to say testimonials card. Now where is the image? The image is within the personal-info info. Oops. And what am I doing? Within the personal info, and it has a class of picture. I'm going to give it a height of 20 rem, a width of 20 rem. Let's take a look at that. Okay. Personal info picture. Why is it not selecting it? Am I not doing the classes all right? Picture. Let me grab this and let us put it right. I'm going to say down below. Oh, I'm doing testimonial. That is why it's not working. It has to be testimonials card. There we go. So that was why the flex was not working. Let's do testimonials. Let's save that. Now there we go. This is what it is actually, what it is that we're actually trying to do. So if I were to say flex direction, not column, but original, now it is working. The reason that it didn't work was because I was not selecting the actual or the correct class. So that part is done. Let's jump. We are gonna come back to this picture, but for now we are done with it. Now I'm gonna say testimonials, testimonials card, and I'm gonna grab the icons. Let's fix those. So the icons, they're gonna be display flex, and I'm gonna say justify content space between. Let's save that. Let's come here. So they're going to be stretched apart from one another. There we go. Let's go ahead and let's keep on coding. Let me just check one thing. So this is on the left. This is in the middle. And I would want to put that in the middle as well. Why is it not in the middle? It has to be in the middle. So okay, let's grab the title. It's going to be testimonials underscore title before element, and I'm going to say left 50% and transform translate x negative 50%. Let's save that. There we go. Now it is in the center, exactly as we have it right there. Cool. So the icons, they're done as well. Let's move on and let's grab the container for the icons is done. We are going to grab the icons themselves, and I'm going to increase the font size to var sts. There we go. So the size of the font, the size of these icons, they have been increased. What do we have after the icon? We're going to grab the para. Now I have provided the para, the class of the utility class of the section para, but I'm just going to change its color. So if I take a look at it, you can see it is black, but in here it is white. You could keep it as it is, but I think it does not contrast well. So I'm going to change it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say testimonials card -- para. I'm going to say color var primary. Cool. Paragraph is done. And now after the paragraph, what do we have? We have that personal info container. So I'm going to say testimonials card -- personal info, not picture, info. So within this, what do I want to do? Again, this is going to be a grid container. So I'm going to say display grid. We are going to have two columns. So grid template columns. This is going to be repeat 2, 1 fr for each of the columns. You are going to have grid template rows, repeat 2 min content. Again, we don't want to actually fix the height of our contents. And the gap, now I'm not going to provide them any row gaps because I want the name and the role to be close to each other, but I'm going to provide column gaps. So the column gap is going to be 3 rows. After that, we are going to jump into our image. First off, let's take a look at this. Here is the CEO. Here is the Ann Jones. I could come down here and I could activate the grid just to show you what it is actually that we are trying to do here. So we have 2 columns, 2 rows. I want the image to span 2 rows, but only 1 column. And I want to change where the CEO is located and where the Ann Jones. We're not going to do for name, but anything for name. But the CEO, I want it to be within the second column. Same row, but second column. So the picture, it's going to start from grid row 1. It's going to span all the way to the end of the container vertically, and horizontally it's going to grab, okay, why is this giving me inherit? Let's save this. Grid column, save that. So it's going to start from 1 and it is going to end at 1. Cool. There we go. Now it is grabbing both of these. We need to provide it those styles to make it a circle. So for the image, we are going to have a border radius of 50%. Now keep in mind, when you're providing 2 dimensions, like both of the dimensions, the height and width for an image, chances are the image is going to lose its aspect ratio. That's why we are going to say object fit cover. It works in the same way as background size cover, but for inline images. There we go. So this part is done as well. Let me take a look at this. Come on, where are you? There we go. So let me refresh the page. Because of the JS that we have provided for this header, it is going to start from the start of the web page. Cool. So this part is done as well. Let's go ahead and let's move on to the name. So I'm just going to copy this part and I'm going to put it right down here. I'm going to say this is name. For name, I wanted to start from, okay, grid column. So start from grid column 2 and span all the way to the last column, which is grid column 2. And I'm going to say justify self start. So horizontally, it's going to be towards the start of the container, and vertically align self is going to be towards the end of the container. Let's give it a font size of var stm. That's it. Let's take a look at it. There we go. That's the finished one. There we go. So the only thing remaining is just fixing where this role is existing or is located. And then what we are going to do is we are going to, do they look the same? So it is aligned. In this case, it is also aligned. There we go. For some reason, the container is pushed towards the left. Okay, anyways, what matters is that they're aligned. I think when we tilt it or rotate it a little bit, then it is going to be pushed towards the left. I think that is why. So that was the name. Let's grab the role. For the role, what I'm going to do is I'm going to fix it where it is. So grid column, it's going to start from column 2 and it is going to span all the way to last column, which is -1. For grid row, it's going to start from row 2 and it is going to span all the way to last row, which is row 2. Justify self, I'm going to set it to start where the name actually exists. Font size, let's set it to var STS, a little bit smaller than name. So this part is also done. There we go. So we have created this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to jump into JavaScript. We are going to complete JavaScript, and after we are done with that, we are going to jump into making this responsive. So first, what I would want to do is make this functional, and then I'm going to make it responsive, because making this card responsive is extremely easy. But you know, in our finished website, the cards, the previous cards, their edges can be seen behind the card that we are currently viewing. So these make the responsiveness process a little bit trickier. All right, so first I need to make this functional, and then we are going to jump into making it responsive. Because it's going to change, that's why the responsiveness doesn't really matter right now. So this is going to be Swiper.js. Again, these styles, they're going to be applied, they're going to be provided to you by the documentation, but I'm going to code them so you really understand what is going on. First, we are going to create a Swiper variable. And I'm going to instantiate a new Swiper object. The Swiper object is going to have is going to contain a class of Swiper. There we go. And then it is going to basically have some objects, some key value pairs within it. So what do I want to do here? Now in here, first off, what do we want to do is, I'm not going to comment anything. We need to provide the direction. Direction. Now keep in mind that this is a JavaScript object, so we are going to separate a key from the value using colon. So the direction is going to be horizontal. It is moving in the horizontal manner and separating. Okay, two key value pairs is going to be done using a comma. And we want it to be loop, right? So when we get to the end of the horizontal swiper, we would want to start again from the start. So it's always going to be looping, like when we get to the end. So this is the last image. Keep in mind, this guy is the last image, and then this one is the first one. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this is 6. So if I just flip it, then we are going to have the first one. So that's why we are going to say loop is going to be true. And we would want to use the effect for cards. There we go. Now we need to provide the functionality for pagination as well. So this is pagination. For pagination, I'm going to create another object. So it is pagination, and this is going to contain EL. I'm going to set it to swiper pagination. So it's going to be swiper dash. Now, where is actually this functionality coming from? It's coming from those links that we have imported. And I'm going to say dynamic bullets. I'm going to set it to true. So dynamic bullets, let's set it to true. So this part is done as well. Let's come down here. And next up, we need to provide functionality for the navigation arrows. So the navigation arrows, they have the swiper button next and swiper button prev classes. So I'm going to say navigation. Now keep in mind, you can't just code everything that you want. This is based on the documentation. I'm just hand coding it to you so you have more time so you can take a look at it and really try to understand what it is that we are trying to do here. So this is the navigation. For the next element, what was the class that we had? So the class that we had was swiper dash button dash next. And for the previous one, we had prev. And this is the prev button. Prev button. There we go. So that part is done. Now, you could provide scroll bars as well, but I'm not going to do so. This should be functional now. There we go. So I can just swipe it to the left. I can swipe it to right. This is also cool. It is going to work with mobile. There we go. You can see it is working. And if I click on this, these cards are going to show. There we go. So the functionality of this swiper is completed as well. The final thing that we need to actually do here is going to be making swiper responsive. So first off, what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump into a responsive. We are in the responsive mode, and I'm going to keep making the width of the window smaller. So let's keep making it smaller, smaller, smaller. Now keep in mind, we have added that section padding. So at 850, the padding has to be decreased. So there we go, 860. And if I just go ahead, and it should be, yeah, the padding is decreased. We could take a look at that as well. Let me grab this section. So this section has, where is the HTML? Where are you, buddy? Why is it not showing HTML? There we go. So it is this section padding. So around 850, we can see that the padding is decreasing. That's how much it is going to differ. So let's keep making the width of the window smaller. And you can see we are getting to a point where this space on the right is greater than the space on the left, right? Like that. So I could go ahead and I could keep making the width of the window smaller, but then we don't have a scroll bar yet. So we don't have it yet. So there we go. So we should see a scroll bar right there. So I don't think this looks cool. This does not look cool. I wouldn't want to have space reduced like to a point where the user can actually see the difference between the white space on the right and the white space on the left. So what I'm going to do is at around 850, where both of the spaces, they seem equal, I'm going to provide some media queries. And luckily, we have that 850 media query. So below the Y, above the section padding, what it is that I want to do. First, I'm just going to write testimonial swiper. Now I'm going to grab the swiper JS, the swiper container, and I'm going to give it a different width. So it's going to be swiper. The width is going to be 40 rem. What was it before? So it was 50 rem plus 10 VW. Now we have decreased it a lot. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to decrease the padding for the card as well. So where are you, buddy? This is going to be Testimonials Card. I'm going to say padding. The padding top and bottom was 4 rem, left and right was 8 rem. I'm going to make all of them 4 rem, so I'm going to decrease it by 4 rem. And I'm going to grab the picture. The picture is incredibly gigantic, as you can see right now. Let's go ahead and let's decrease the size of the picture as well. This is the picture. Height, let's set it to 10 rem. Width, 10 rem. And we need to save this. Take a look at it. There we go. And now these arrows look gigantic. So we need to fix everything basically. So what I'm going to do is there is a little bit space, like from the tip of this arrow until up to the edge of this card, and also the same thing for the left arrow. I could change these as well. Now these styles, keep in mind, they come from the swiper JS. So it is a little bit of tricky. It's a little bit tricky to actually to be able to style these. So if you do anything to this div, even though it seems like these arrows are within this div or are this div, it's not going to change anything. So if you crack this open and if you come into this after element, you can see that it says after element. So these are the actual arrows. We are going to fix the size of these arrows as well. So you need to keep that in mind. So first off, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the swiper dash button dash next. So the next button, I'm going to say right 0. And for the previous button, I'm going to say left 0. So this is prev. And let's say left 0. Let's save that. It should bring them towards the edge. There we go. So it looks a little bit better. We have a little bit of more breathing space. Now, these icons, again, I told you, these are gigantic. Now, if you do anything to this, if you say like font size 5 pixels, you say height 5 pixels, nothing is going to absolutely have an effect on these. Why? Because they're after elements. We need to grab those. So I'm going to grab the next button, put it right here, the previous button, and I'm going to say right here, and I'm going to click here after the next, hold Alt and click here, and for both of them I'm going to say the after element. There we go. Okay. And I'm going to say font size 30 pixels. There we go. So they're a little bit smaller. So our card, our testimonial card, it is going to get smaller after 850 to this size. Now we have a little bit of more breathing space. We can basically go ahead and up until a few more pixels, a few more 100 pixels, it is going to be okay for us. So let's keep making the width of the window smaller and smaller. There we go, 600, very cool, very cool. Again, the width, the space is going to get decreased. It is decreasing, decreasing, decreasing. So what I want to do essentially is align the styles that I'm going to provide for media queries with our existing media queries. So if I have a style that I'm going to apply on 600, I'm not going to apply it on that, I'm going to apply it on 650. If it cannot be applied on 650, I'm going to apply it on 500. So I'm going to avoid creating like media queries for every 50 pixels. So it's going to be very complicated. It's going to be very hard to maintain. So you can see that this width is getting smaller. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring it all the way to 500, and then I'm going to apply more styles. So at the media query of 500, let's copy that. Let's put it right here. I'm going to say in testimonial swiper. So I'm going to decrease the width of the swiper itself. Now these are highly experimental values. I've experimented with them a lot. Go ahead and experiment with them. So next up, I'm going to grab the picture. I could decrease this, and I could also decrease the font size for the name and font size for the row. And I think in that manner, the size of these they're going to get decreased as well. So testimonials picture, I'm going to change it from we changed it from 20 to 10, and then from 10 to 7. This is going to be with 7 rem. There we go. And then I'm going to grab the testimonials name, and I'm going to say font size, let's set it to var sts, and I'm going to say line height. Okay, line height, let's set it to 1.1. Margin bottom, I'm going to set it to 1 rem. Cool. And let's grab the row. So it's going to be testimonials row. Let's decrease the font size to static extra small. Let's save everything. Let's take a look at them. Now this is what we are ending up with. So it is going to change. Basically, we have decreased the width, and I could go to almost 300. We don't see that scroll bar, so that is a good thing. There we go. They start from there, and now we do see that. So if we start from there, we do see that. So at this point, we are not going to see it. So even if I go to 320, so all the way to 320, it's going to be responsive. I'm not going to, it is looking extremely thin. I'm not going to basically decrease the width of it. I could decrease it a little bit more. These arrows, they have some breathing space. I could decrease it to 25 rem. And now all the way to 300, and it's not that big of an issue if you're actually taking a look at it. You know what, let's do 20 rem. Okay, this is how you can see this is looking extremely horrible. So I could say 24. Let's add 4 more. There we go. So 2 spaces. I told you that these are going to create issues for us, these cards behind them. So what do I want to do? I could decrease the size of this font. So if I set it to XS, save that. Is it still readable? You can see it's not readable. So this is the issue with that. So let's, I just set that back to 25 rem. And I have to suffice at this point, at this exact point. We don't have that. So if we start from the first card, we are not going to have any scroll bar. And if we keep scrolling and come back to the first card, the scroll bar is going to go away. So this is an exception. I'm just going to leave it at here. And with this, we are done with this section of the website. It took almost 50 minutes. And I'm not really, I don't really care. I'm proud of it. I'm proud that we were able to create this. And we have created a fantastic website so far. The next section, we are going to talk about this blog section, our recent blogs. So for this one, what you would want to do is provide 2 arrows on the left and on the right, because most of the times you're going to have more content than 3 blog topics or 3 blogs. So you have to be able to scroll from one blog to other as well. Now this website already contains a lot of JavaScript, and I don't want to add any more to it. This is a really gigantic website. We have done a lot. I mean, if I were to do all of the things, it is going to take like maybe more than 30 hours of a website if you want to be like 100% accurate. So you have to put the brakes at some point, and you have to basically accept that and try to move on so you can create a website. So if you try to do everything within one website, you will never be able to get that website done. It's going to take 1 year to be able to create it. So with this, our lecture comes to an end. In the next one, we are going to create the blog section. See you then.